30-second warning that we're getting ready. Correct, Chair? 30 seconds.
I call this January meeting of the Committee of the Whole to order, and I would just remind all of us, we have a very exciting event today at 6 o'clock, which is our 10-year teacher celebration. So we have that hard stop at 6 o'clock to do that celebration for our newly tenured teachers. And after that, I will turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Bonds. Oh, roll call.
Member Banks.
Here.
Chair Duraketer.
Yep.
Member Loeffler-Kemp. Here. Member Lofald.
Here.
And Member Mixell, I'm here. Member Sadowski.
Here.
Member Williams is excused. Superintendent Magus.
Here.
Assistant Superintendent Bonds.
Present.
Deputy Clerk Zunich. Present. And Assistant Shannon Brown.
Here.
We will now turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Bonds.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Board, and welcome, everyone. First up, we have under Supporting Every Student, we have a presentation related to the 26-27 course changes led by Director Larva, our secondary director, as well as individuals that she has with her who will be presenting this information. So I'll turn it over to Director Larva, who will do the introductions.
Yeah, greetings. You know, it's always exciting when we get to come every year and share with you any course catalog changes that we have. So this is Julie Stauber. I know most of you have met her before, but I'm going to publicly say it's Julie Stauber. She is currently our secondary Minnesota MTSS coordinator. And curriculum and instruction coordinator. It is a really long title, but so she does everything in our district related to MTSS, but then she also is our lead on our secondary stuff when it comes to our working with our content leads and specialists and our course catalog development. And so this is accumulation of the great work that's been done. I would like to say that there's two other members of our team, really truly Darcy Machenbacher. You can't not do stuff without Darcy. She's, she puts the course catalog together, everything's done with her. Also, though, Danette Sebo, who could not be here tonight. So there are some things related to CTE that we're going to attempt to address if you have any questions. But if they're very specific CTE questions, they might be best answered by Danette if it's something very specific. So I just wanted to lay that out. She's at a trauma training of some sort today up on the range, so she's not with us today. So just so you're aware of that. I don't have a presentation. However, you have been provided with our course catalog changes, our course changes. This is something just to reiterate for the public as well as for you all. It is the responsibility of the board to approve our courses, and so this is something that we talk about here at the Committee of the Whole meeting and needs to be approved during your school board meeting in January. We do have registration opening up soon after, and so our high school and our middle school students will be engaging in that process in the very near future. So just kind of wanted to lay that out there with you. Usually what we do, and we can talk about any questions that you have, and we can go through specific courses if you want to have more details about things, but pretty much what we've kind of done in the past is kind of give you the bigger picture of things like why we made some of these changes without getting into every single course. We don't necessarily go line by line and go through each and every course. That's not how we've really done it in the past. But what you see in this document is you see courses that are being added, and that's the first section. You will see beginning on, I think it's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, page 4, you're going to see any changes that are happening to current courses that we have. It could be just a title change. It could be a description change. It could be that we're adding a prerequisite or something like that. And then on the very last page, you are going to see where we have some courses that are being deleted. And so we can talk about any of those things if you have questions about some of those. We don't have any I mean, we can talk about anything that you want to talk about. I do want to add, though, some of the big picture things as far as like where our priorities are with our course catalog. I just want to reiterate the standard and curriculum review cycle. Currently, we are engaging in, we call them the big four, like we've already had science that had been done. And so in the past couple of years, we've brought some science changes to you. This year, it was ELA that was being done. So next year, it is social studies. And so what you're seeing as a reflection here are some changes with social studies. And I am going to let you talk a little bit about those social studies standards and how we're trying to focus our attention on some of the cultural components of those standards. If you want to like talk about that now, that's fine.
Well, you'll see on the very last page that we are deleting a couple of social studies standards. One is the civics course, and the other one is international studies. But you'll see that we're adding different things earlier in the pages. But one of the things that we're specifically, social studies has a lot of cultural responsiveness, and we're really focusing on getting all of those standards, making sure that all students have access to all of the standards in social studies, and we're focusing more on required courses versus electives. There is a possibility that in the future, if, once we spend a little more time with the brand-new standards, that an elective course could come back, but it would have to meet the current standards, not the old set of standards. So we're really focused on getting all the standards within the required social studies courses. That's first and foremost what we're trying to do.
So dovetailing onto that, when you look at the ad on the first page at the bottom, there's Social Studies 9. In the past, it has been called civics. There's also a human geography component that we have not really been addressing very well in the district. It is a requirement, so what we have done is we will still be able to address some of the civic standards that make sense in 9th grade, but civics is a big focus in 12th grade. And so there's a heavier impact or emphasis, I guess, on civics in 12th grade. So there'll still be some civics components and standards that are addressed in 9th grade, but it is going to be more focused around using those geographical tools and methods and talking about how the humans have shaped our globe. And so that is a piece that is different. So I just want to make sure that you were all aware of that. The other piece, when she says there's a deletion of an elective, we're really focusing in on the world history standards. We know that there's an international studies course that's been an elective that has been highly desirable. Popular, I guess. It does not align with the current standards, so it is currently being deleted while we're focusing on those required standards and those required courses, and that's the course that she specifically is talking about that potentially would be something that we could bring back in the future, but having it aligned with different standards. So that is just something to kind of reiterate. As you go through this, you're going to see things like our world language expansion is our first topic, right at the top. Like American Sign Language has been popular. We offered that beginning 2 years ago. This is our second year. So we have kids that had taken American Sign Language 1, have taken American Sign Language 2, and so we're at that point of expansion into the college and the schools for American Sign Language. So that's just a natural kind of flow and progression. So that's why that one is being added on. You're going to see quite a few related to CTE. Again, we have some pathway cleanup that is being done. We have enterprises, which is really exciting. If Danette was here to talk about it. When we talk about our school-based enterprise work, it's like, I'm sure you get the emails for like the Greyhound Cafe and all those different businesses that we're actually running from the schools. But a lot of these programmatic things that are happening in CTE are On the recommendation, I'm hoping I'm getting this right from Danette's text that she sent me, on the recommendation of their advisory boards. So if you think about college or career and technical education courses, they have to be to industry standards. And so we have an advisory board that works with our teacher and works with Danette, and they have made some recommendation for some of these pathway pieces too. So some of it is cleaning up and just ensuring that we have things that are lining up into the pathway and being at industry standards. And so she wanted me just to kind of share that with you all. I do think one thing of note that we should probably pop into with the CTE courses, bottom of page 3. Last year we came to you and we had a lot of conversations about journalism, and we needed to take a pause of a year and really identify how we are going to address journalism in the changing society that we are currently in. And so at the bottom of page 3, you'll see digital media design and production, Media Lab 1. And if you look at that description, we're really taking it from ink and analog kind of maybe, when you think about the changes that have happened, into the new age with some of the media production. So it's going to be a student-run digital journalism and media production course. They will be having things that are so it's going into the CTE realm too. So it's going into a pathway of CTE. They're going to be creating the social media for our schools, doing the announcements, doing the newsletters, doing podcasts, doing videos. It's kind of getting into what journalism looks like today. So that is the first class, and then there's a second class, so we're actually expanding on that journalism pathway. Remember, with CTE, we have to have multiple steps in a pathway. So as part of our communications pathway, there's an advanced production and broadcasting, which is Lab 2. So just kind of is expanding upon that media production that we have. So all of this is now in a communications pathway for students in our CTE world.
The next addition that you'll see is the Reading Acceleration course, and that is a direct response to the READ Act. Now that we will have some screening data in the high school, grades 4 through 12, we are required to screen our students. We need to have a plan of what we'll do for any student who's not reading at grade level. So at the high school, we will have a course available for students to take and move in and out depending upon, if we can work with them and improve their reading scores and whatnot. They'll have a place where they can go and get extra instruction.
And that is a requirement of the legislation, that we have interventions for our students.
So
Chair Derek Eater.
This is just a quick question, just because I don't remember. Is 0.5, that essentially, is that a half credit? So that's half a semester, or excuse me, a semester, and then 1 is for the full?
Yeah,
Okay,
that is correct.
Yep.
Member Mike.
is there another
Member Sadowski.
Or did you want to wait till the end, or? It's okay? Okay, I'm going to ask my question then. For the digital media design and production that's taking the place of the newspaper, I don't see, I'm just curious, are we going to have a digital newspaper then? Because I don't see that anywhere in here.
It's journalism. Journalism looks different in today's world, so I don't know if it's going to be a specific newspaper, and you would have to get more information, I guess, from Danette would know, like she's working with the CT teachers around how that's going to actually look. Newsletters, articles, podcasts, videos, it's more than just a newspaper.
And I think that's great, but I also, I would be curious to learn more about the newspaper component, because we do have online newspapers as well in today's society. So I would just be curious and look for more information on that.
I think it's more around like writing articles, and the skills behind it, I think, is really what they're talking about. So when I'm thinking newsletter versus like putting together a full newspaper is what I think is where they're leaning.
Okay. And then one little comment, I guess, that would be at least helpful for me and maybe not everyone else. But when we look at the deletions and we see just replacing with updated program offerings, it'd be really helpful for me, if I could see like, well, which ones were replacing those deletions, I guess. I can kind of tell just by looking at it, but it'd be helpful to have it in that column.
Oh, yeah, we haven't spoken to the art one yet. So do you want to talk about those art changes that we have? Because I look at that like graphic arts is a little bit different. Yeah, I think all the different classes that are in there, because we now have Introduction to Graphic Arts and Design, Advanced Graphic Arts and Commercial Applications. So they've rechanged it a little bit. They've rewritten the pathways for that one. But yeah, I see what you're saying, though.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Member Loeffler Kemp.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this information ahead of time as well. I appreciated having a chance to look it over. And I'm really glad about the sign language. I heard a lot of really positive things. I was actually just talking about this over the weekend at a party with a parent whose child was in ASL. So really glad to see the success of that. And many of the new classes I'm excited about. I am, though, very disappointed about the journalism. I think kids were led to believe that there was just going to be a pause in the newspaper, for example, at East High School, and that it was going to come back, but not in a drastically new form. And while I think the course offering looks really great and would appeal to maybe some other students as well, I'm just, like, were students involved in this decision? Was there input from families? I'm really disappointed, I have to say.
It's coming from that whole CTE lens again, so having to think about industry standards. I do know that there have been people that have been consulted with. Danette's not here to really talk about who she's consulted with on that. I know that Adele has helped a little bit with some of this as well, because we're thinking about, like, what does communications and journalism look like in the future, and what are those standards that we have now? So it's a broader base. Yes, I would agree that there's more than it's not just focusing in on creating and drafting a newspaper. And it's more around those skills of communicating. How do we communicate for the broader public? And there's many different ways of doing that. Does that mean that they're not doing a newspaper at all? I mean, it's not going to be like that's just the main focus of it and they're going to have a monthly newspaper. There's going to be things that they're writing and articles and all those different things, all those skills that go with it. I just don't know I don't know the cadence right now of that.
Yeah, I guess my disappointment lies with, I remember sitting at this board table, hearing many students and a lot of support for our journalism program, and particularly the newspaper piece of it, and all the skills that students have learned from that, that they have taken with them as they went on to do other things. And I was led to believe that it was just going to be a pause and relook at it, but this seems like it's taking it away. And that's concerning, and frankly, I think it's concerning in this day and age that we are saying this is the new look of the media. Well, it is. You know, journalism, paper, newspapers, all of that do play a big role. And so I don't want to get hung up on this because there's many good things that you are sharing, but I am very disappointed. And I hear industry standards. I'd be curious who is on the advisory board. Were there people from the media in our community on that advisory board with this particular topic? So I'd like more information on that. And I guess I'd like to know what kind of student input we had on this particular class.
Thank you, Member Loeffler Kemp, for that feedback, and we will make sure that at the board meeting that we will provide that additional clarification that you are seeking at the board meeting. So I appreciate that feedback. Member Meixel?
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. I'll echo Member Loeffler Kemp. I look forward to hearing from Jeanette Sebo a little bit more about the process and what the journalism classes are going to be looking like going in. I understand you couldn't be here tonight because of important work, but there's just some holes in the background there that I would also like clarification on. Quick questions, and it was stated, and I just want to state it even more clearly, the Duluth Public Schools are not deleting civics. We think civics are very important. We're putting them into Social Studies 9. You also mentioned that there's a lot of emphasis on the civic standards in the 12th grade civics class. I don't see, is that new or different? Or
No,
is it,
that's the
has always
same
been the
course.
same?
We're not changing that course, but they are aligning the required courses with the new standards.
Okay.
And so that one is still a course that we have on our course catalog. It's just going to be, they just have to take the old standards and retire them and take the new standards and rewrite what they're doing as far as the curriculum part goes for them.
Okay, and so that doesn't require us to
Nope.
update the
Nope.
description in our course catalog then? Okay, is that's, all right. And then the last question I had under the new reading acceleration course, which is required by the READ Act, as you said, is that something that students are able to choose for themselves, or do they have to be recommended and promoted into that class by a staff member or teacher?
It's going to be based on their results from our screening assessments. If we determine that they need some support, it's going to be offered to them. It's not going to be something that kids can just generally register for. It has to be, like we have other courses that are kind of similar where it's like people are targeted to be enrolled in certain courses.
And so if a student is offered that class, that means they're required to take it, or they can choose not to take it?
So the READ Act is really interesting because there are some parental rights involved in a lot of things too. So parents can decline testing, parents can decline, there's different things. So it's not like you're going to be required to take it, you're going to be encouraged to take it because maybe you have a skill gap.
And what does that process look like then? Is it the counselors reaching out to the student and saying that this should be on your schedule? Like, how is that?
Well, we
happen?
haven't gone through a complete
all
screening.
new.
It's all
It's
brand
all
new to
new
us.
high
So
school.
we just needed to have a placeholder. We haven't even given the screening assessment yet this year to know what this is going to potentially look like, but we needed to make sure that we had something in our course catalog so that we could be in alignment with the READ Act legislation. So we're kind of still like, we're not sure how many kids is this really going to look like for? I mean, we don't know any of those details yet because we're still in the process of getting this first step done this year.
Okay, and so then when does the screening actually start?
This month, this year's different than next year because of the READ Act component being newly placed on us for this year. We had a little more flexibility on when it would be offered. Next year, the screening has to happen at the very beginning of the year.
Great,
So,
okay, thank you so much.
I think it was Member Lofold and then Superintendent Magus.
Defer to you if you think you've got some clarification that needs before we share even more.
You're going to share. So go
I'm
ahead.
going to share.
I would say that based on the number of questions related to journalism, and you mentioned that we would share more information at the board meeting, I think we could prepare information prior to that, because I think this is something that people would want to have answers on and be able to reflect on it prior to the voting night. So I think we need to take a moment and take pause, just because there are a number of other people involved in it, and we want to make sure that we share all the information and aren't just coming back with it at the last minute before you're taking a vote. So I was suggesting that we have something ready prior to the publishing on Board Book.
Okay. I was going to just share what I know about the Denfeld media classes and what they've been doing the last 3 years, which is really more aligned to what you see somewhat the direction that we see in CTE. And so sometimes there are different needs at different high schools, and I don't know where the board's ideas are as far as having to have, exact replica at each school, but we have been moving towards that in my career here, that what one school is offering, the other school should Or do we allow to have some different needs at different? So, great for the clarification and more work on journalism, but I want you to know that Denfeld has had an online newspaper. That is how they've been working the last 3 years. They do the announcements. They have been doing some podcasting and some insider interviews. I think this looks more robust and more intentional, and I like that direction too. So that's my input on that side. But my general question is, this does look wonderful and exciting, and I just want clarification that these are our offerings going into our catalog. If students apply, we run the course. If they don't, we don't, right? I mean, and
If
then.
they're an elective, so we have staffing budget thresholds that we
Yes,
pretty
yeah,
much get
that's
FTE
where I was gonna go.
thresholds. So, and each site is different. There's different resources available at our different sites. And so there's no like set number threshold. I can't say like we have to have 20 kids to run a course, because that would look very different at Denfeld than it would look at East with class sizes. So we offer, the course catalog is put together. We offer, we get the registration, and then it's really student-driven, what students are interested in taking. Sometimes, like we've had wonderful growth in some of our CTE courses, but there's only one Adam Wasaki over at East High School. He can only teach so many classes, and so then we have kids that are trying to get into those courses and they may be denied. Like we don't have space for you at this point in time, and then we have to go to their alternatives. But then there's also some classes that we're offering that we might only have 1 or 2 kids that have been interested in it, and so then we can't run it, or we might be in this weird place and we have to make some judgment calls, like, is this important enough that we really want to run this course if we only have, like, let's say there's 18 students. Like, at Denfeld, that might be easier for them to run at 18, but at East, it's like, okay, but is this like a prior, like, do we really just want to push this one through? Like, we have to make decisions based on our FTE allotment.
And I think we sometimes get a report back in the fall with what classes, so we see all of this incredibly wonderful stuff, and we do. But, my question too, when I was looking at it over the weekend, was that, do we have space and capacity to run all of the art classes that we've listed? Because I know what the art rooms look like in the high school at Denfeld, but if they do fill, is our district ready to step up, and is the board ready to push that we're gonna allow those? But I think there's only so many teacher slots we can pay for, and so many capacity issues, as we're seeing in other areas of our needs. So, but I'm excited for that, and have some good work for what your curriculum is doing. I would support Member Zadowski with, when we say we're deleting business management, leadership, and coaching and replacing with updated programming offering. Granted, I could look back on all of this and try to make sure I connect which one is offered. You don't have to do this now, Jen, we know that, but just we could go back and put what it is it's replacing, and that would help us just as we're looking at, okay, I'm glad that we're still doing the intro to marketing, but it's called something different, and it might be under, I don't know, hospitality trending. The only other concern I have is sometimes when we go for a CITS or even like the AP business and personal finance, is how our college campuses and how our licensures for our teachers going to meet the needs that we have. And I'm excited that we'll figure that out. And people will come to our district and apply for our jobs, because these are the kind of jobs that some people are looking for in education. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I do want to also point out, because it's on this document as well as the board report, so I didn't know where would be the most appropriate to talk about it, but let's talk about it, I guess, right now, I think would be great. There had been an ask about the 4 required courses that we had added with the 7-period day, and she actually has them up on this particular, I don't know which page this is, in your handouts, but yeah, I wanted to talk about these before we step away from the course catalog. Nope, just, page 4, okay. So you'll start seeing like computer science 10. We are changing the name from Computer Science 10 to just be Computer Science. It is no longer going to be the required course that we have, so that we'll free up some of that space for those students to be able to have make some choices. It is going to become an elective where students can still choose to do that. The reason why we had put computer science in as a required course a few years ago was that there were computer science standards that were coming out, and we're not trained up very well for us to address those. Just like we have American Indian standards that are being embedded in all of the different content areas, like ELA and social studies, all the different areas will have like different topics. Computer science is one of those that are being embedded as they're doing all of these revisions. So it is going to be something where teachers are just going to have to embed computer science standards within their content areas. And so it is an elective still. But it is not going to be a required course. We have also moved Futures 9, that course that we had for all ninth graders, and college, career, and life readiness courses. We're changing them a little bit. We're putting them into the CTE world. Right now, they've been taught by different people. It could be I don't know, like a
English teacher.
English teacher who has like
1 hour.
1 hour that they had available, and so then they're teaching that course. Maybe a social studies teacher is teaching another course, and maybe a business teacher is teaching. It was really piecemealed, which doesn't make it consistent, which is what I feel like was the concern that most of our students are bringing forward to us. It's like, well, it looks very different in that person's class and this person's class. We're putting those two courses into the CTE world. So they'll have some consistency, and it becomes part of a pathway for work experience. So kids will be able to get basic learning and stuff in ninth grade. In 11th grade, we'll make sure that we have all those things that we need for the Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness Plan. That's embedded, that's heavily embedded there in the formerly known as World's Best Workforce. That's heavily embedded in that 11th grade. But once they take those two classes, we had added last year, I don't know if you remember, we added work experience, which we had not had in our district for a very, very long time. But we have a teacher that is licensed, and so we've offered it this year. It has been very popular. It's also keeping some of our students in school with us instead of leaving for other opportunities. Like they're staying, they're getting credit for going and having a job. And so this is going to be a way for us to be able to keep some of our kids and be able to keep some of that ADM that we have lost over time. So by the time they get to 11th grade, after they have their semester, they're ready they can do work experience and get their high school credit for employment. So they can use that as a pathway now. And so those two courses are still things that we want kids to take, and it's a lot of opportunities for kids. But it is going to be different in that it's going to have more consistency around those two courses.
Thank you. We have a few questions. Member Loeffler-Kemp, then Member Sadowski.
Yeah, just a couple more questions. Going to kind of go back to the journalism just because of the comments Member Lofold made, but were there teachers involved with creating this new digital media design production class? Were there teachers who had been involved with the journalism program as it was involved with creating this new class?
I don't have that answer.
I don't know.
Okay. I'd like to know that.
Before.
Yeah, I would like to know that because I think they would bring great experience on what excited students with and making sure it was built into this new class. And then if there is not going to be an opportunity for, like I think some people thought, for the newspaper to come back, will they be able to start that as a after-school club or something like that? Because it was pretty self-funded anyways, at least at East. I am very familiar with that. And so I guess were there discussions around that? And then just back to the course catalog with the social studies standards. I appreciate the changes. I know a bit about the 12th grade civic standards because I've been following it very closely as it's been lobbied on at the Capitol. And this is the topic of civics comes up. We have many advocates for it at the state Capitol. And I remember as a parent when it was introduced for our ninth graders. I felt it was very important for my ninth grader to have, and all four of my kids had the opportunity to have ninth grade civics. And so I guess I ask again, with taking that away, how were civic teachers who were teaching the current ninth grade civics involved with how it's going to be added into this new class, so that we're not missing out on some of the key things that teachers felt students gained from having ninth grade civics.
I would say yes. Susan Schmidt, who many of you know, kind of our guru regarding social studies in the district, used to be the content specialist that had a full-time position in the district regarding social studies. She's the one that's been leading the work and the effort, has worked with committee members. They have had lots of discussion about this. There had been a little pushback. Civic standards really are met in 12th grade. From the state standards perspective, we did not want to lose civics in ninth grade, having components of that, but we were deficient in that geography component. That piece we were not offering, and they are state standards, so we had to make a correction. Those have to be offered somewhere. So by having Social Studies 9, we can still offer some of those civic standards that are pertinent and relevant and are great to have with those beginning civic concepts for ninth grade, but we can also dive into that strand that we've been missing in our offerings. Kids are required to have the social studies, like, what is it, 3.5 credits? I think so. I think it's 3.5 credits they're required to have, and over that time, they need to meet all of those standards. So, yes, our teachers have been involved through Susan Schmidt and the committee that she has put together.
And what was the pushback? You said there was some pushback. What was that about? Yeah, I heard you say that.
Just missing, like, taking civics out. There's been a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. So, we had a lot of, there was a couple of principals who are social studies teachers that were very concerned about that, and so we had lots of discussion around that, and having it be more of an approach of Social Studies 9, where we can embed the two different kinds of standards, was something that we decided would be the most reasonable and made most sense.
Have you seen that in other districts where they've removed the ninth grade civics? I know when we
Most of them don't have
offered it,
civics in ninth grade.
Yeah.
Most of them don't have civics in ninth grade. We were unique in that. Most of them have like the human geography in ninth grade. But there are some districts, and that was one of the things we looked at. There are some districts that do have a social studies 9, so it can be a little bit where you can blend a few more of those strands.
And Susan Schmidt did look at other districts to see how they were making sure that all standards were provided for students. So she did look at other districts, she and her committee.
Thank you.
Member Sadowski?
Just a couple more comments. One about the newspaper. Maybe I misheard, but was just a little more of a comment, but I'm a little uncomfortable with the idea that taking away the newspaper course, and this is really great curriculum, but the idea that this will prepare students, I think it is more well-rounded, but I'm a little uncomfortable with the fact that I heard that the newspaper wasn't preparing kids to work in a digital literacy future that we're in it right now. I know that we have one student from East who now works for the PBS NewsHour who indicates that she learned so much from the newspaper class. So I just wanted to make that comment because we do have newspapers, they're just online now. And there are paper ones too, but I just wanted to add that. And I agree with Member Loeffler-Kemp that from what I heard from parent communication and from my own students at East, the idea was that it would be paused for a year and then brought back. So feeling like it'll be a great idea to get more information before the board meeting. Thank you, Superintendent Magus, on that. And then a couple other just comments. When it comes to, Member Lofald, you were mentioning, with electives, or someone was, when maybe we don't have enough students sign up for one class and the other. And I know I've talked to Superintendent Magus about this, but I would just say it here just to encourage. We're always talking about career in tech ed. How do we use technology to make sure that students who maybe a section is cut because we don't have enough students, how do we use technology to make sure that doesn't happen? So just a comment. And then my last one was just really appreciated the update on the computer science 10 class. I think that I really appreciate you listening to our students on that one and our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you for that feedback. And again, we will make sure we provide the board with additional information prior to the board meeting and have an opportunity at the board meeting to have additional clarification for the public as well regarding the asks and the clarifications. I also will appreciate the feedback regarding the inclusion of stakeholders that were involved in some of the decisions that are being made in the future. That would be something that we can easily add to the reports in terms of the, individuals that were involved in the development of the curriculum or the course. So we can make sure we include those that kind of information, if not titles, individuals' names as well. So we'll include that information as feedback as well. So I appreciate it.
Member Eater.
Superintendent Magus, but now I'll go to Chair Derek Eater.
Thank you, and I would just caution us as a board, we actually don't know whether or not there's a newspaper. We don't have that answer, and I think we're all making some assumptions right now. So I think we need to hold off and wait to figure out exactly what that's going to look like before we make any assumptions moving forward about those two courses. The second thing I would say is I'm thrilled to see that when we went through the new high school schedule, we have these courses. Educators, we love to open up a section and then say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to add this class because we know that students need it. It happens at the college level all the time too. I love the thoughtfulness and the critical thinking that the district has is looking to see how those courses were serving students and then making those changes to make sure that they serve the students in the district better. And I always think it's important that, and I'm super supportive of this change of moving those courses into CTE, because another thing we consistently see in education is we decide we want to do some of these life skills or some of these other courses, and then we pull an English teacher, a math teacher, a science teacher, and this teacher because they have a schedule open, and there is not the consistency that we need across those courses. So I like to see that it's moving into a place, and those teachers then can have some consistency across program outcomes, schedule, all those pieces that will better serve students so that a student taking it at 4th hour doesn't have a dramatically different course than a student taking it at 7th hour. So I'm just very appreciative that the administration and the teachers and all the leadership was looking at how those courses were being served and if the courses that we were serving students, if they were quality or not. And so I think these improvements have made huge. So I'm really glad to see this. So thank you.
Member Lawford?
Just a point of clarification, and maybe Jen and Julie know this, and then I called it up on the government site, but civics is actually probably in the 2022-23 legislative session. Senator Swazinski made this into the bill. I think it came into the bill. We listened to it as well. Civics, the state legislatures demanded that we put civics in 11 and 12. I think it was foresight that this district decided that they'll do a little bit of tweaking to make sure that 9th graders have a little bit, the most basic of civics that are going to add to that. But the reason that we changed that is because state legislators said, we want our graduates in 11th or 12th grade as part of their 3.5 credits in social studies to have it in 11th and 12th grade because they didn't think that students took it seriously in 9th grade, and they were moving it to 11th and 12th. So it's really a state legislative act that made our district have to revamp that. Thank you.
Thank you for looking that up.
Dr. Kim?
Yeah, I would just say, Member Loeffel, you kind of simplified that discussion on them saying that in ninth grade they weren't getting, that they felt that they took it more seriously in 11th and 12th grade. I think there were many. There were many, I was with you. There were many districts that didn't even offer civics in the way that, I mean, I think it was just the offering of civics overall and being more comprehensive, but we can debate that one.
So as we, seeing no additional lights, I want to just remind that we have 4 more reports. And then there's a celebration upstairs, and I don't want to make sure that we have a chance, the board has a chance to really enjoy the celebration as well. So just keeping that in mind. Any additional questions related to this topic here? And thank you for that feedback. I mean, received, and we will seek clarification for those items that surfaced, and we will get that in the hands of the board, and we'll have additional conversations at the board meeting. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
for
you,
the
Jean.
opportunity for us to come forward with this. So I'd like to hear your feedback.
Also, thank you. Also, I would like to point out that in the board presentation also that as it relates to courses, Jen actually is going to be coming back up in a little bit after our community presentation, our partner, that in the presentation you will see courses that have been of interest, such as ethnic studies, the CITS courses, our African American literature courses, our diversity and perspectives courses. Those are courses that have been offered and are running, so you might not see them on this document here because those are things that passed last year, but we will have further discussion. I just know that was something that was of interest, are those topics with diverse perspectives as well as just high interest. So thank you.
Excuse me, and I will have questions in that section.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next up, we have our community partner with us, Keyzone YMCA. They will provide, they won't provide an update. You have received a board summary report relating to their programming. You've had that information. So just wanted to ask the board if there are any questions related to the board summary from our Keyzone partners in programming. Chair Derek Eater.
I sound like I'm at a conference right now. I don't have a question, more of a statement. But what I really want to do is just thank Keyzone. They provide such a vital service for the district. I've had 2 kids that went through Keyzone at Piedmont, and I just can't speak highly enough of the good work that happens at Keyzone. So that's my comment versus question. Thank you.
Member Meixel?
I also have a comment, but then also a question. So if you wanted to come up, you feel free. The thing that brought me the most joy was to see that the wait list was only 9 students long. And having students who have also gone through Keyzone over the years, knowing that sometimes we were 30, 40 people deep on that wait list, it brings me joy that there's not as many families who are having to experience that. Is that something that's just been this year that we've improved upon, or has that been
Corbett. Oh, thanks. I'm Kate Corbett. I'm the out-of-school time director. So our waitlist issues previously were mostly at Lowell Elementary, where we had a waitlist of almost 70 kids a couple of years back. And that was due to space issues in the school. We couldn't register more than 200 because we couldn't fit any more in that school after school. And so the immersion program switch this year helped that situation. And so at Lowell now we have 150 kids registered and no waitlist. The problem did kind of move to Myers-Wilkins because we're busting at the seams at Myers-Wilkins this year, but we went from 39 kids registered at Myers-Wilkins to 110, and we have a wait list of 6 kids at Myers-Wilkins now, but we can fit them all. So it's pretty much solved our wait list issue.
So great to hear. The other thing I was curious about, you talk about our staff ratios and how making sure that we're keeping special attention to ensure our eligibility for CCAP, which is our Child Care Assistance Program. So that's Minnesota's way of funding through the federal government, the funds that we get there. Have you noticed any difference or changes with the freeze at the federal level for child care assistance to our state?
Yeah, as far as I know, we have no issues with that yet. From what I'm hearing, the state is doing investigations for fraud, but there is not a hold on our CCAP payments yet.
Okay, and do we have plans in place, or is that something that's happening at different levels, like within the state legislature, to make sure that we have plans in place going forward if that were to come down to the site level?
I would say right now, we definitely haven't heard anything like specific about that, but as a YMCA, we would work with our financial assistance program to provide that to those families to ensure they can continue in our after-school care and come up with some plans of how to help support those families so they are not turned away from our programs.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, the only notification we've gotten is that there might be investigations or visits for those investigations.
I guess I should ask, and this might not be information you have off the top of your head, is that a substantial amount of funding for our programs for after-school care?
You know, I wouldn't say we have a huge amount of families using CCAP. We would love more. But I would say only maybe 10% of our families.
You have someone coming up behind you.
Oh, well, across the association, we have 50 families using CCAP, but 50 to 80 is what I read in an email, but that also includes our early child care programming.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you so much for staying on top of that.
Member Larfla Kemp?
Yeah, I echo everything that's been said about the great programming, and I remember when Keyzone started and out at Lester Park, and it's just been great to see the growth of it across the district. I had, I guess, a couple questions in terms of the enrollment piece. So where you have that listed, is that a cap, or like, could there be more than 30 students at Stowe, for example? But
Yes, we can take more kids. It depends on the school. Some sites, we do have a cap of about 200 kids is probably about the max that we can have, just based on the availability of the space that we can use after school. But like at Stowe, we for sure could take more youth in. There's just not families that are registering with our program at that site. And then it would be based on our staffing. So then we have to make sure that we're in that ratio of 1 to 15. So it would be based on can we hire a staff person to ensure that we have that safety measures in place with a staff person to bring in more youth. But yes, we could.
okay. And then a follow-up to the CCAP, because I'm, in my work, I know quite a bit about this right now. Do you think that it's because of the paperwork that's involved for parents that you're not getting parents to do it? I mean, 50 to 80 is great, but would that help maybe in some of our sites like Stowe if the paperwork wasn't so difficult to get in that way?
I do feel like that is a deterrent. I do feel like we had more kids before COVID that were on CCAP, and what happened is they found different means during that time, and they figured it out, and they just continued to use those different ways of supporting themselves after school. But I do feel like we bring people from the county to our open houses after school to walk through with families of how to do that process. And I do think that that can be something that hinders them to sign up for it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again for all you offer. I hear really good things from families that have Keyzone kids across the district, so thank you.
Thank you. And I have Superintendent Magus, then I'll close out with a comment as well. Superintendent Magus?
No, I just wanted to say thank you to the YMCA for Keyzone. Thank you for all your partnership. Thanks for what you do for the community overall. And also just wanted to celebrate, I saw today that the Duluth YMCA will be combining with Superior YMCA, so you'll become a strong anchor in both sides of the Twin Ports. So congratulations and thanks for your service to the community.
Thank you. John beat me to it, so I'll just say thank you for your partnership over the last 6 years that I've been here and previous to me, so thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Next up, we have a board summary report that was provided for the board regarding our Check and Connect programming. So the board had an opportunity to see a summary report of our programming. So I will ask the board any questions or clarification needed for our Check and Connect program. Member Sadowski?
Hi, we have Sarah Lulinen here with us today. She's our Check and Connect coordinator for the district.
Hi, Sarah. I noticed this report was originally submitted in November, so I was just really curious, well, not really, but for the 5 of the 6 positions that are currently filled at Denfeld, this says that the position was offered to a candidate on November 20th, so I'm just curious if that was filled or not.
That position has been filled.
Wonderful. Thank you for your work on that.
Chair Derek Eater?
I just, Check and Connect is a program that, through data, demonstrates its worth and demonstrates how it is life-changing for kids, especially not just that they graduate high school, but they also learn when they screw up how to get back, which is an incredibly important skill throughout the entire life. So I know that we have gone through a shrinking or a realignment of our Check and Connect resources, so we have fewer resources and fewer Check and Connect counselors this year than we did last year. And I see that we're serving, what was it, 24, 25 with 78 students at Denfeld and 27 students at East. What does it look like this year for the number of students that we are able to serve? Because we have, what have we shrunk? Did we shrink it down by 4 or 5?
We shrunk from 15 to 8.
Yeah, that's what I
So we
was-
lost 7 of our mentors, which really pulled them completely out of middle school. So that was a struggle, right?
Yeah.
Because we're not on the preventative end anymore. At the top end, each mentor can roughly support around 25 students. At Denfeld, we have a couple mentors that support specifically students on IEPs, and their caseload is often a little smaller just because of the high needs of those students. Our number is a little low at East right now, because originally we only had 1 mentor allocated there. That changed to 2, so we'd close some out, and then we had a mentor out with some family medical stuff. So we're building his caseload back up, so.
Okay, and then I had talked to a lot of families that were so appreciative of the Check and Connect counselors in middle school. And again, what we want to try to do is get problems upstream. So if we can teach our 7th and 8th graders how to deal with this, then we're not dealing with 12th graders that are getting ready. So is there thought through the district, or is there any thoughts, have you thought about how we maybe bring some of those skills back into the middle schools? And how are we going to, so we know we have a vacuum because we had Check and Connect in the middle schools. Those Check and Connect counselors are no longer in the middle school. So how is that vacuum being filled? How are we doing that? What are we doing with those kids in middle school that at one time were served by our Check and Connect counselors?
I think I would default to someone
Yeah,
other
that's,
than
yeah,
me.
that's, yeah, different.
So we don't have that, that one-on-one kind of counseling per se of the Check and Connect counselor with a student. But what we did do is we had created with the middle school model advisory. So we do have an advisory time that is running twice a week. And I know that some things related to skills are embedded in that. So Wednesdays and Thursdays during their block days, those longer periods of time, we do have advisory. Advisors are meeting with kids, and we've worked the schedule a little bit so they can do more checking in on how they're doing in their courses. So there's a little bit, I wouldn't say that it is at the level of what we were at with Check and Connect. However, we do have some space for it.
Okay, but we have pulled, it's a less formal process than what we had previously, and we really don't have a way to track any of that stuff. Okay, all right. I just want to say thank you for all that work, because this is an incredibly amazing program that you can look in the data and just see how it affects kids. So thank you.
And I will chime in, Chair Derek Eater, with also when it comes to staffing decisions for next year. Obviously, how we support students with mentoring, such as Check Connect, will be one of the things that we will have deep conversations around regarding, the continuation at the high school level and even the possibility of the middle school. But again, that will come through a lot of dialogue with our principals and leaders and looking at our staffing levels and what we can offer and what we should prioritize. In addition, I want to let the community know and the board know that we also started, I want to say 2 years ago, started introducing some of the Check and Connect strategies, not total programming with some of our other staff who have great connections with kids, and that's our integration specialists and our homeschool liaisons. Now they're not fully Check and Connect mentors by any means, but they provide mentorship and they provide additional strategies with those students. So we've started providing them with some training last year, and we still are figuring out how to continue to leverage that FTE, their support, their expertise in some kind of formal mentoring. And so that is under consideration as well as a way to meet and close that gap that you expressed that exists in our middle schools as well as in our high schools. So we are thinking about a number of things. We just have to figure out strategically how to leverage the resources we have to prioritize the things that we think will continue to meet the needs of kids.
I agree with it, and I think it's a great reminder for us as a board as we go into thinking about what the budget looks like for the following year, how we're prioritizing things and what things, because I would say it's a heck of a lot easier for a kid to figure out when they fail a course in 7th grade than it is when they fail it at 11th grade. So, thank
I
you.
would like to add that we did just train our families and transition workers. So, and they will be doing Check and Connect with a portion of their population, not all, because not all students would be appropriate. And they will be doing it to the same fidelity benchmarks that my Check and Connect mentors do. So I'm excited to see some data because that will be at an elementary level. They're going to get some joint training with our mentors. So they are fully on board with using this intervention at an elementary level. We have some tailoring because we've never done it at an elementary level in the district, but I'm hopeful that it can help a full family with an elementary mentor.
Great, because the success of Check and Connect comes from the fidelity to all of these research-based tools and stuff. So great, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Just wanted to make sure that, for the community and everyone, that we are really aware and trying to be thoughtful on how we meet those needs that you shared that are important and that we believe are important as well. I'm not sure who was next, but I'll go with Member Sadowski, then I'll come to Member Loeffler-Kemp.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I just wanted to echo what Chair Eder said. This is one of those programs that I always love looking at the data because it's just a really effective program, and I really appreciate all of your work. I just wanted to highlight, I was so impressed, in the 24-25 school year, 27 of 28 Check and Connect students graduated, with one remaining student entering the Bridge program. That is so incredible. So, thank you.
Member Loeffler-Kemp?
And echo, I think we all, as a board, have been very supportive of the Check and Connect program, and it's been great again to see the growth of it in my time on the board. I would like to have some follow-up, and you can get back to me on this, and the rest of us, how many students, because of the cutbacks at East, how many students were served last year that now aren't being served this year because of the cutback in Check and Connect? And I'd just like a little bit more of data on that because I know that was a big concern from the East community with the cutback with Check and Connect mentors there. And I appreciate the new ways that you're working to train others like the family in transition. So if I could get that feedback or that information following this meeting, I'd appreciate that.
I can share with you it is roughly 40 kids, but I will get exact data.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next board summary that was provided was related to, sorry,
Yep,
Jill.
I did have my light on. Just a quick
Lawful,
question
sorry about
about,
that.
I know that we've had various funding streams, and maybe CFO Simone can answer too. We've had some various funding streams for Check and Connect. That's why we did expand it in other areas. So where are we funding Check and Connect right now? Through our general education budget, or are there still some grants that are coming in to help supplement some staff?
The grant that we received from St. Louis County is in existence for this year. They do expire at the end of this year. So the resources that we received from St. Louis County as well as partial from the district. So it's a shared expenditure. So
But that grant from St. Louis County is done after this year?
it is.
Okay. So are there
Unfortunately.
other grants, are there advocacy routes you would, that school board members can do at the state level for? Yeah, we'll talk about
We'll
that.
talk about it. But again, that goes, I shared that as a district, we're going to have to really consider our budget, our priorities, and staffing levels this year, as we know these things are going to expire, but more dialogue and more conversations on how we continue some of these things if this is something that we deem as a priority that we want to do. So thank you. Appreciate it. You received a, Jen Larva, I guess she's going to stay up for, it's the Jen Larva show today. So there was a summary report, board summary report provided related to the secondary schedule update. And I'll turn it over to Jen. And then also she will go right into the credit course update as well. So Jen, I'll turn it to you.
Yeah, so I provided this schedule update where we were at. I think really the only new thing that really has happened is that there was some conversations and some adjustments to what we had called opportunity days, which is kind of like a place where we could put some of those clubs and stuff in. And so it does look a little bit different at East than it does at Denfeld, but they really worked with their teams at their sites, their department leads, and those teams in order to have a plan in place for how they wanted to address it at their sites. So that's really the only new things that have happened. You'll see on those other parts here, the outcomes and the results, that there was a recommendation that was made. I know that senior leaders and labor management were planning on having a meeting to have further conversation about next steps as to where we go with the purpose or the trying to get that high school committee back together, like what would be the purpose behind that. Any questions about the schedule? Sorry.
Member Meixel?
I'll start just with a basic one. So looking at, or how many students do we have in our high schools?
Okay. It's probably about 2,600 kids, 2,500 kids, something like that.
Just looking at our action too that you have listed here in terms of getting their feedback. We had 356 students complete a survey out of 2,600. And so it's hard for me to then look at that information that we gathered, knowing that it's most likely not representative of the students that we have in our schools.
I would say that it's been very hard for us to get students and families to engage in surveys recently. I also work with the SRO committee, and that is another area where we just don't get the survey results that we're hoping for. I think when we had WIN, it became like a part of WIN that we could have kids do them, and now it's just really hard to get their feedback. Or it has been. We have new tools that we haven't tried yet, but.
Thank you. I'm just going to continue to look over this here.
Member Lawford?
I guess I could share with board members too that Member Loeffler-Kemp and I sit on this quality steering committee, and so a lot of this information has been percolated, or if you read the minutes on the district news, you'll see that these have been concerns in the middle school and high school, and I think that I'm glad that they gather together and they talk to each other and they figure out what they can do to make the high school and middle school days since the change. Is this our second full year of our 7-period day and then the new model in the middle school? So really, they had to take a year to just get to see what was working and what wasn't. And then now, last year, they met and tried to come up with some improvements that they were seeing. And so I've followed it that way as we've gone. And you're right, Member Mike Sell, that surveys don't always give us the amount, the number to respond to. And that has been something that I think other organizations I'm a part of that do surveys struggle with that. We've certainly struggled in past years where we've wanted feedback, and I just will continue to see what other methods, but maybe because at least the high school, I don't know about the middle schools, work with opportunity, middle school didn't have opportunities, but the way that I see, some of the discussion, I think it's also on our agenda this week at the Quality Steering Committee, if I'm on that committee, I don't know yet, but I know that this is there as well, with some information and some sharing in that arena. So I think that surveys might very well be something that they could do better with some of the options they're doing with meeting twice a week to get kids. So, thank you.
Member Meixel?
Yeah, so we talked about the committee that's been looking at the high school schedule. Can you explain who's on the committee then?
Boy, I would have to go back and know everybody who's on the committee, but it does have teacher representatives. Ethan Fisher, the DFT president, and I kind of work together to make sure that we have like a lot of different areas covered, like special education, making sure we have a special education teacher, making sure that we have somebody that's involved in CTE courses, like the different areas. So we've got and some of his exec board too. He wants to ensure that he's got some of his exec board on there. Principals, senior leaders have been invited, but I think they come as they can. I think that's about it.
So it sounds like you have a very wide variety of staff and stakeholders. I assume music is also represented in those conversations as well, since
Yeah.
they seem to have a big impact on the schedule changes. So that's good to hear. So I'm just trying to understand when I hear Member Lofall then also say that at Quality Steering Committee, like these topics have come up with concerns and wanting to find changes. But the way I'm reading the summary report is that one sticking point is with some of our bargaining units and having to make those changes when we have contracts in place now that are set. Am I understanding that correctly, that that's kind of one of the sticking points in making major changes at this time?
Yes. I mean, MOUs can always be developed. So a recommendation had come from the committee last year. It just kind of has just sat there. And so we're just waiting for some next steps and guidance.
Okay, and so is that committee continuing to engage those different stakeholders so that
Not
we
until we
can make
kind of get
improvements?
a
if there's-
purpose again, are we going to move forward with this? Are we having to, is there some other way that you want us to function? It doesn't make sense to bring the committee back to do the same work that we just did. So.
Well, and it seems as though many of those stakeholders are part of the leadership in different groups that can, be having those conversations amongst themselves as well. So it'd be interesting to hear more about that. And so when I look at the next steps in your summary report, it just seems that we're waiting then for our next round of contract negotiations to actually address some of the issues that the 7-period day has raised. So there's so many good things about our 7-period day, and that we're able to get more students into the classes they need to be successfully graduating from our programs. But obviously, we also have been hearing from many community members and students that there's certain deficits that they now are facing. So it seems as though trying to correct some of those things, the way I'm reading the summary report is that we're just going to be waiting until the next round of contract negotiations. Is that a correct
This was
assessment?
written before the last round of QLTs too. I had submitted this quite a while ago. And then QLTs have met since then, and an agreement was made at that time that senior leaders would meet with labor management, just with Ethan, I suppose, the coming together for an initial conversation. So I think that is actually the next step that's going to happen. I'm not sure any of the details about that though right now.
So that is correct. And so, point of clarification, we're not waiting for the contract negotiations because, as been shared, MOUs are written all the time in the midst of contracts when we're not in the formal process of negotiations. So we do have the ability to always amend things through the MOUs. And so what we agreed to was to have an additional conversation with Ethan Fisher, myself, John, to talk about what would be the charge of the subcommittee's next work and things that might result in an MOU for this coming school year to resolve some of those things. So we're not waiting for contract negotiations formally because MOUs allow us to make those changes. We're just trying to identify what things we want to accomplish so that we can then decide, do we pull back the middle school committee in this case, or do we pull the high school committee together again to work through some of those challenges that we've identified.
Great. I just appreciate that there's so many people who are recognizing that, there's improvements that can be made, and it seems as though many people are trying to address those. And so just, giving that, encouragement that we continue to work through all those different processes to do what's best for kids.
Thank you. And another thing I just want to add, and I'll go to the next person, is just know that these two subcommittees came out of labor management. So we are in partnership with the DFT through the labor management process to develop these committees and work with them in partnership. It ensures that we have good representation, because they want to make sure also that the right teachers are at the table, having the right conversations related to, again, middle school schedules or the high school schedules. So these subcommittees came out of the labor management process. We're continuing to partner with our, teachers and teachers union to fill the gaps and to course correct and to make changes. Member Loeffler-Kemp.
Certainly, there has been a lot of discussion in all of the different committees that have been mentioned on this topic. Just a real quick question. How have we let parents at both East and Denfeld know the changes that have been made to the pause day? Because I know, I guess I want to make sure parents are clear that we have made some changes from last year.
Well, those communications have come from those individual principals regarding when there's opportunity days or pause days. I call them opportunity days because pause means different things at both different sites, so I want to make sure I have more of an umbrella term. But they are responsible for that communication, so I can't say what each site has done, but they've been directly communicating with their families when opportunity days are coming up and what type of things are happening on those days.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no additional light, we have another summary report related to the credit course updates. Again, classes that we offered last year, we want to provide a status update on how those classes are faring, if they're running, how many students are participating in those courses, and I'll turn it over to, again, Director Larver.
Yep, and I brought Julie Stopper back up with me again. Just to be clear that this was written quite a while ago, so we tried to address many of the things that are in some of the content here in that course catalog presentation. This was kind of like an update before the update, but specifically just wanting to make sure that you were aware that those courses that we had been asked to do some development of around ethnic studies, the global and indigenous sports, the CITS Anishinaabe of Lake Superior course, the African American literature course, and the diverse perspectives course. Those courses have been fully developed and have been offered through our course catalog. And you can see that students are engaging in some of those courses. There is definitely courses that are running more at Denfeld than there are at East, but again, that comes down to student selection and that process that we have around the registration process. I do think there are some improvements that can be made. Our counselors do highlight some courses for our students when they're addressing class, different, as they're coming into registration, they have those meetings with them, registration meetings. If we could highlight maybe some of these particular courses, they might have more registrations behind them. So that is one area that we are asking our counselors to improve upon, is like which courses that they might want to highlight with students, that these are options and opportunities that we can run.
Member Banks?
Sure, thank you. So I know I just have like 5 minutes left, so I'm going to try to get through this. So as I look at this outcomes and results as it relates to the ethnic studies, global and indigenous sports, et cetera, a mere 187 students out of 8,000 plus students in the district are enrolled in these courses. That concerns me. So I would like information as to how the counselors are presenting the courses and their availability to our students on both campuses. I find it ironic that the majority of the students that are taking the courses are at Danville High School, when in fact all of our kids need these courses. When they graduate from our system, many of them are not prepared for the real world as it relates to our diverse communities. And so I think what I'm trying to say here is, or what I am saying is, when I look at diverse perspectives, running one section at Denfield, 46 students. East, not running, 3 students interested in the class. African American literature, Denfield, running one section, first semester, 26 students. That's disconcerting as well. And the list goes on. And so I'm saying that to say that if we are going to truly prepare our kids for the real world, it's incumbent upon us to make sure folks are doing due diligence in making sure our kids have access to these very important courses, because it is about their future and their interactions with diverse communities. And so when I see this and I see that East is not getting that opportunity, they deserve that opportunity also. And so I'm wondering what kind of efforts can be made or amplified at East High School to encourage our kids, white kids, kids of color, to take these courses. These courses are not just for kids of color. White kids should take these courses because they're a part of the global perspective.
Agreed. I would like to point out that these are electives,
Yes.
which is
Right.
part of the bigger, broader issue here that's coming. Kids have a lot of opportunities and a lot of choices that they get to make, which is why we find that sometimes we have a very, very deep course catalog, and it's really like about what the students would like to see offered. Thankfully, our social studies standards are more culturally responsive. And so we're taking that approach, or Susan Schmidt and Julie are doing a lot of work around, those are the courses that everyone is required to take. It's not going to have the name or the title that says ethnic or diverse, but it's going to be embedded in those required courses. So we're going to ensure that those culturally responsive courses and standards are being addressed in those required courses, so that that's for all. That's the hard part when we get to electives versus what's required of students, because when we have electives, we're going to have kids that are going to want to be in choir, and so they're not going to have space to take a course around diverse perspectives. Or we're going to have a kid that's like, I'm really trying to get to college and I want to take the CITS class, and I want to take this advanced placement class and course. And so they're making choices, which is where it's hard, which is why we really are shifting to like making sure that within our social studies, as we're developing with the new standards, that we're really addressing that. Oh, and ELA. Yeah, you can talk a little bit more about the standards
I
part.
want to say this. So when I look at African American literature, I don't see African American or Black history as a course offering. Is there a reason for that? Or has that not been talked about or brought up?
I think this was one where we had a staff member who was willing to develop the course in collaboration with a few people, and he felt, because of his licensure, the literature piece and teaching some history of African American people through literature was more his strength area. So, sometimes it's really about who we have that can write the curriculum too. Not a social studies teacher, but a person who had that English ELA licensure. He took this approach because that's where he had strength. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so how can we amplify the possibility of making sure we have African American Black history courses on both of our campuses, our high school campuses.
Well, I
There
think those
is a
standards are
huge
embedded
need for that.
in the required.
Pardon?
Within those standards, a lot of that history is going to be embedded in those social studies courses for required,
For required.
for all
So,
students.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, but let me ask you, are any of these courses weighted?
We don't have weighted courses in our district.
You don't have any weighted courses?
No.
Correct. No.
Well, AP, or any of these, the reason I ask that question is because we have students who may need stuff like that to graduate. And so is there any consideration or conversation on those kind of topics?
We have not weighted. We are on a 4.0 grade scale. And weighting would be like, a kid could graduate with like a 4.8 or, so we don't have that. That's just been our scale. We have not had any further conversations around that. I mean, we're really getting into this year, like grading practices. So like the weighting grades is a whole nother level of things, and we're trying to calibrate around our grading practices in the district, so.
So member,
Yes.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
So I would love to see, I'm just one board member, but I would love to see more being done as it relates to these elective classes here or courses that are here. And I would love to see the opportunity happen at East High School as well. It's just not enough being done. I don't know what that's going to take, but all of our students, all of our high school students need to have these opportunities in front of them as much as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for that feedback, Member Banks and everyone. And as a reminder, these courses didn't exist before, and so we're really happy that we do have them in place and that they're running. They are running mostly at Denfeld, and there is opportunity. So similar to, I think, about journalism course, as well as other courses, students do have choices, as as Director Larva was sharing. But how teachers promote classes and pathways, that is something that we are always looking at and trying to make sure that how do we encourage kids to take different things, and how do we go about making them aware of all these different opportunities. And at the end of the day, because they are elective, students choose, right? They vote with their feet, and then we have to, as a district, make decisions on whether we offer the course or not. But I agree that we need to find ways to make all students and families aware of the opportunities and provide staff with opportunities to promote these different classes, whether it's all of the classes that are being added that you heard about. We just need to make sure we do a better job. So I appreciate that feedback, Member Banks. Member Lawford?
Yeah, I know we're on a 6 o'clock hard start. Hopefully, there's a lot of good food up there that they're just milling. But just to point to Member Banks, thanks for advocating, thanks for reminding. As a teacher, too, of an elective, I taught electives my whole career, and it really does take some time to develop the reputation of a class that is, other kids are talking about. And so I hope that will happen and transcend between the East students and the Denfeld students, so that there's more awareness. Again, this is the first rollout of these electives. It takes some time to build, to build that reputation, to build that knowledge. And just brothers will take it, and then their sister will take it, and it will build. It will build at both buildings. We just have to give it some time. But I do want to support, too, what Director Larva says about African-American literature as an English teacher. One, it's embedded in 9th grade. It's embedded in 10th grade. It's embedded in junior American literature. All kinds of opportunities to learn not only the writers that are significant in the African-American community, but the history of it as well. I don't know who's teaching it at Denfeld. I'm glad that I have a colleague, probably one that I taught with, that saw the desire to really go after this, because you can't teach African-American literature without teaching African-American history. Most of the writers are already telling it to us. So the kids are getting it within the stories that they're reading, within the poetry, the dramas, and that's just a rich thing. So I know that class will gain in both areas, and you can cover a lot of territory and expose kids to a nice, healthy way. But it is embedded in a lot of the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, not only in literature, but also in our in our history departments as well. So, but I'm glad they're there. I mean, and thanks for your report on it, because we were interested in it.
Julie and Jen. I was going to say, because Shannon whispered something in my ear at the same time. I know who you are. She was trying to let me know that superintendent was trying to say something. But I want to say thank you first, and then appreciate all your hard work for getting ready for tonight and doing all of the due diligence to prepare the reports. And so I just want to say thank you. And again, thank you, board, for all of the feedback. We hear you, and we're going to make sure that we take all those things under consideration as we adjust. Superintendent Magus.
I was going to say very similar to what you did. So I stole your thunder earlier, and you stole mine now. So I just want to say thank you and really appreciate it. And I think it's important for us to make sure that all cultures are deeply embedded in our curriculum in the required classes as well as the electives. And that's part of why we believe in advancing equity here in Duluth Public Schools. And thank you very much.
Thank you for this, and we are